Last Friday, there is a huge win for labor in Michigan and possibly across the country. On Friday, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a Democrat, signed a bill repealing right to work. So now, basically, right to work forbids unions and employers from entering into agreements that would require every worker under the contract to pay fees to cover the costs of bargaining and representation. So, of course, unions are against right to work because, like, we don't want freeloaders. Again, we gather the dues from the membership, and if there are people that are not paying dues, and we do a successful contract negotiation and get people higher pay and benefits, well, that's going to go to the people who were not part of the union, did not help achieve that victory. And so that actually hurts our bargaining power when we don't when we no longer have those resources. So of course it makes sense, and you know, to be against those right to work laws. Now, of course, one of the reasons that Republicans love right to work laws is that it does weaken the unions, and it also drives down wages, and it divides workers. So that's why they push this in different states. Michigan was one of those states over a decade ago that passed right to work. And now, thankfully, since Democrats do have control of all three branches of government in Michigan, they're using it. And I'm actually really, really surprised. Because look, I live in the state, and I did not see Governor Whitmer as super progressive, but on a lot of decisions, she's done a good job. Yes, she did try protect the state, during the COVID pandemic. I know there are a lot of conservatives that were pretty angry about that. We also, of course, had received a rebate from insurance companies, changing the insurance laws. And now, more importantly, right to work is gone. And that's awesome. So that's really, really good. Now, both the State House and Senate recently passed repeal bills on party line votes. Of course, Republicans still in favor of destroying unions. Now, the unions themselves, the Michigan AFL-CIO, cheered this announcement. This is Rob Bieber. He said, quote, "The state had restored the balance of power for workers. After decades of attacks on working people, it's a new day in Michigan, and the future is bright." Look, again, union membership in this country, it's still at pretty historic lows. But as of late, we have seen workers organize. You had, of course, the attempts to unionize warehouse workers at Amazon. Unfortunately, while that one failed, you had the ones at Starbucks that have been successful. A resurgent labor union movement is really good for the country. Again, we have incredibly low levels of union membership right now because, of course, the decades of attacks against organized labor, which has led to, of course, the erosion of wages. You don't have, wages keeping up with productivity, wages keeping up with inflation in a lot of cases. Whereas, of course, you have executive bonuses that have skyrocketed, executive compensation, corporate profits, corporate stock buybacks, all of these things, basically showing that while labor has been more productive than ever, labor has not been getting the fair share of those returns of their labor. And that's, of course, correlated with the destruction of the unions, the low power of the unions and the low membership over the last few decades. And so it is good to see them come back, because when you have unions, when you have collective bargaining, that tends to push wages back up. That tends to increase benefits for people. And by the way, It's also good for the workplaces because if you're not chasing short-term profits as a company, and you actually have, and this is my radical idea, having union membership be part of the board, the corporate boards, mandated. That's what I would do, but we're not at that point yet. When you have both workers and investors, shareholders, all as shareholders, and making these decisions, it's going to be better for the long-term health of these companies because they are going to look out for more than just shareholder returns. They're also going to look out for the workers. You look out for workers, you have happier workers, you have less turnover, better products, and I mean, all of that is just a benefit to any company and any community that grows up around those companies. And so, look, the return of labor, in Michigan, that's going to be helped out by this. We're going to see the returns. We're going to see wages go up. We're going to see people joining, and contributing to unions. We're going to see the return of labor power. And I think that's just an amazing outcome. Now, one more thing, by the way, Whitmer also signed another bill that would restore the state's prevailing wage law, which sets minimum pay and benefit requirements for employees on government projects like construction and service workers. So, of course, what that's going to do is, once again, for those industries, that's going to push wages up. It's going to push wages higher, and it's going to also encourage the usage of unionized labor. So there you go. Win in Michigan. Finally, fighting against the right wing and these corporations who have tried to push through to depower these workers. I love it. So I give her kudos for that. Look, we don't see, Democrats fighting at the national level, but thankfully in some places at the local level, there's still Democrats with some fight in them to do the right thing. And so I'm just glad that Michigan Democrats happen to be the ones that are still fighting.